Welcome, everybody, to the Building Aaronsburg podcast. I'm Thomas Aaronsburg.
And I'm Catherine Aaronsburg.
And first, I want to say that this is our 21st episode. Can you believe that we've already done 20 episodes?
Why is 21? Oh,
I
I
just
was
thought
wondering
when
why
I
21 was significant, but you're saying we've done 20.
Yeah, when I've...
You forgot to say it during the 20th one that it was
I
significant.
it didn't cross my mind until I was putting things together, and then I had to title it.
Yeah, they fly by. All the podcasts that I listen to that I've been probably listening to for years and years, they'll sometimes do a little bit of recap where they'll talk about old podcasts and they'll go, that was way back, episode 84. And I'm thinking, how many have y'all done?
Yeah.
And you look down at the podcast, app, and they've done 372 episodes, and you're like, what?
Yeah, we'll blink our eyes and we'll be at 370, whatever.
Can we come up with enough subjects? What can we talk about next?
There's always something to talk about. That's
What are
why
we-
we started this thing.
That's
We
true.
just always have things to talk about.
What are we talking about today?
Today we're going to talk about when to ask for help.
Do we know the answer to that question?
We do not.
So let's just start you off by saying, by listening to this podcast, you may not know the answer by the time it's all over.
Well, I think it's one of those things that you don't think of it until you're like
drowning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeping that nose barely above water.
Right.
I think that it's also a personality thing. We've had this discussion before. I'm very bad at asking, I'm bad at asking for help, but also I'm pretty bad at identifying when I probably should need some help. Because often people around me will go, you're taking on so much.
Right.
And I always give people the analogy of the lobster in the pot where,
you're slowly adding and slowly adding and slowly adding.
Yeah, where you don't really realize, it's just part of life. It's part of life to add on to what you're doing and to just handle it, to deal with it.
Right.
So at what point is it too much? And I think there has been so much talk, of course, lately about mental health, which is a great subject to be had, and it's a great discussion to be had. But that's a little separate from what we'll probably talk about today. Just knowing when you need to reach out, not asking for help for your mental health if there's a depression issue or something else that you're feeling mentally that you need to handle, but more of the actual physical when you need help. I hired an assistant recently.
Yeah, so I think that's actually what I wanted to start with was in your business, it's always just been you. And you slowly, like you said, it was just you drawing some plans. Then you started doing your videos, but all the while you're getting more clients, and then these videos are becoming something that
They kind of became their own
where you
animal.
just kind of stood in front of a camera. Just you hit record, and then you walked around and stood in front of a camera.
But then I was editing
and
them.
then you edited them by yourself.
Yeah.
And then as that became more professional, at the same time you're growing number of clients.
I realized I needed help with that, with
your video
filming and
stuff.
producing, yeah.
Right.
And for me, for whatever reason, that wasn't a hard transition for me to acknowledge I needed help. And it may have been because it was something I relatively recently took on, and so I didn't feel like it was a part of my identity yet, and so I didn't feel attached to it enough to go, I can hand this to somebody else and it's not a big deal. I feel like it was detached enough from who I had been for so long. It was something I started relatively recently. It was something I started filming and then handed it off within a year.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, would you say that you were good at it or that you enjoyed it? Either of those two things?
No, and it wasn't something that that I thought that I had the best quality of, I felt like someone else was going to do it better and take my vision of what I wanted it to be and turn it into what I wanted it to be.
Right. So in those cases, it's probably pretty easy to ask for help because look, I know I'm not good at this, or that you don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it was a new service you added to your business, but very quickly you decided, I'm not good at this. Let's get someone else. I need this. It's going to bring... It's your way of advertising, essentially, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, video is my way of advertising, and essentially that's probably the largest thing that it does is advertise for my business. But yeah, I handed it off to somebody else, and I think that was a really good decision. That was my first handoff in my business. But now, 5 years later or so, it's about been that long since I started, maybe 6 years since I started filming things. I think of other ways to hand things off. Of course, in business, I also had, like I said a minute ago, I hired an assistant in November, but you guys, I've been in business for 15 years.
Right.
Since 2008. I never thought that I would get bigger than just me. And so I hired the film guy, and I thought, what am I doing? I never thought I'd hire somebody. But then I hired somebody who's with me every day, an assistant who's involved in the daily, the day-to-day. The film person is we film together. They go and they edit, Nate goes and edits off by himself. We're not really together except
Right.
for when we film.
Or if you have meetings to set up film stuff, but
Sure.
it's not.
But it's not the same as an assistant who's like in your business all the
Right.
time. They know who's called you every day. They know what your schedule looks like. She knows my schedule better than I do,
Yeah.
which honestly is a good thing because I can't keep track of it anymore. But admitting I needed an assistant, I remember there was a time where I thought I said it out loud, and I even just thought. I said to other people that are, female entrepreneurs, I said, I don't know what I would do with an assistant. And I just remember this one girl saying, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You'll figure out what you'll do with an assistant. And now that I have one,
You don't know how like, if something happened to her,
yeah, I don't
you'd
know
be
how I
drowning
live
real
without
fast.
it, but I
Yeah.
did it. I did it because I was the lobster in the pot, and the fire was heating up the water, and I just you just do it. It's
Right.
just like being a mom. I mean, we have 4 kids. I look back at photos of our kids from 4 or 5 years ago.
Mhm.
They were all babies. When I
Yeah.
say babies, we had 3 children in front-facing car seats at one time.
Rear facing.
Rear facing, sorry. Is that
Yeah.
right? Rear facing?
Well, we had when
They had to be 2. No, they were probably
yeah,
forward
one I think
facing.
one was forward facing, the other 2 were still facing
They
backwards.
were in 5-point buckle
Yeah.
harness car seats. I shouldn't say they were all rear facing because
Right.
they weren't,
Because
but
one was facing forward,
we
the
had
other
to
2
climb back there and buckle and unbuckle people out of car seats. I don't
Right.
think it was 3. I think it was all 4 actually at one time for a while, and then they moved to
Well, they were
booster
in
seats.
boosters. By the time the youngest one was born, the oldest one was in a booster.
All I'm saying is, what on earth?
Yeah.
It was a lot, but there's no one who could have said. I mean, people did tell me, "You're taking on a lot," because like, what are you gonna do? Just abandon your children? No, like
Right.
you're gonna do whatever it takes. You're gonna do. But certainly, a lot of other people would have said, "I need help. Let me hire somebody." Now, a huge portion of our stuff was I was a very small business. I was choosing to stay home with the kids and take care of them
Right.
while you were a school teacher and are a school teacher, and so we didn't have a lot of money. I mean, it's nice to say you need help.
Yeah,
Well,
can you get the
how
help?
yeah, how on earth is that gonna
Right.
happen? So for a long time, it just wasn't possible. And so I think that unlike the filming thing, um, doing whatever it took to take care of the kids and keep the house and all those things, it became part of my identity. And
Right.
so eventually it becomes so part of who you are and you're so used to doing it that you don't even know how to let it go to somebody else.
Sure.
And I'm still in that position today. I
With
work a full-time job with employees, have 4 children who are in sports. Now you're taking care of the sports, admittedly. I come home and I cook dinner every night
Yeah.
still. I come home at 5 and I cook dinner. And we still all clean the house. Like, I do the bathrooms exclusively. I'm the bathroom girl, and I do, a ton of other stuff too. But you guys all help to clean the house. And of course, our children need to learn the skills of cleaning.
Mhm.
But we are spending our weekends, every weekend, maintaining
Yeah,
stuff,
just getting caught back up.
just getting caught up.
Right.
And I don't want to do that anymore. I
Right.
want to be able to, and not even like enjoy our weekends as if I want to sit by the pool, because we all know that's not who I am. I'm never just going to sit by the pool and enjoy the pool for the weekend.
Right.
But I want to renovate the bathroom. But we can't even get to renovating the bathroom because we're cleaning it before, like
Yeah.
cleaning all the other bathrooms. And so, I mean, renovating a bathroom is a pretty big project, but they're stacking up in my head, which gives me anxiety. The little projects that I have that
Yeah,
we
and
haven't
especially
done.
during springtime too. You kind of have these weekends set out. Like, we need to power wash this, then we need to get the backyard ready and the front yard ready, and
Right. We could be pressure washing things. We could be just all this like spring maintenance. I need to aerate the backyard. I've had things on our list every weekend for the last month, and none of them have gotten done.
right.
And so, because we're cleaning the house, or in the last few weekends, there's been family in town, or there's been kids playing games. I mean, right now the kids are playing soccer. Before that, they were playing
Basketball.
and so it pushes everything to basically we have Sunday open, and that's it.
Right. It's usually Saturday afternoons and Sundays, but the last 2 Saturday afternoons we've either had family in town or some other family obligation to get to. And so for
So
3 straight weekends we have done nothing, and
So I'm
nothing's
finally
getting
admitting
done.
that I need help with. Of course, I have to. I mean, as you guys can tell from listening to us for the last 5 minutes, I have to give it a lot of logical thought before I'll admit that that's what needs to be done in order. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's here's the case for why I need somebody.
Right.
And when I get somebody, it will free us up to do other productive things. Like, in my head, there is no again, vacation to come from this. This is a matter of I need someone else to take care of this so that we can be productive in other ways.
Right.
Because there's a ton of other things for us to do.
I mean, really, it's no different than what you did with your business and your assistant.
Correct.
You were doing so much of the nitty gritty that you couldn't get to the bigger
I was
picture stuff.
I was losing out on, yes, 100%. I was losing on clients who I couldn't even remember called me
Right.
because I was busy doing other things. They would call me if I didn't immediately get them, if they weren't immediately interested in hiring me, I let them go. I wasn't going to follow up. I wasn't
Right.
going to do any of those things. And that's what the assistant now does.
Right. She schedules them out far enough that
She schedules them out. If someone calls and she doesn't hear, she sends them all the information about how much we charge and when we can schedule and all that. If they don't call her back, she'll call back in a week and go, "Hey, did you get the information? Did you have any questions?" I didn't do that stuff.
Right.
And so she is able to do a ton of stuff that I was just letting go by. So by hiring somebody, I'm actually more productive,
right.
and able to bring in more money, and have more clients and have more satisfied clients.
Yeah, that
really,
was one of the things that you were really on the fence about hiring her. Is she going to pay for herself, and how is that going to affect the business? And
there's
it was
so
the
many
same thing with your film person too.
right.
When you were getting ready to hire him, it's kind of a big risk because you're going to have to pay a salary, and you're hoping, is this person actually going to bring me enough more business to pay that salary?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it's kind of a gamble.
It is, but there's plenty of people. It's a really hard thing to really differentiate between the people who are making you money and the people who are there to just keep you afloat. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a difference between a salesperson who's going out and actively getting work.
Sure.
My assistant's not actively going out and getting work. I'm producing the leads that bring the work to us, and then she's
Right.
able to capture them and keep them.
Right.
Which is worth something, of course, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, she's not a salesperson.
She's not a salesperson. And so I'm
Right.
not sure she's actually earning her income in that way.
Well, other than she's keeping you from losing
Correct.
potential income.
Yeah, but I mean, geez Louise, I would have been really losing a lot in order for her to have to make up what she's making.
Yeah.
So you can't always look at it that way. It's kind of this balance between the two things. And film is the same way. That is an advertising expenditure for me.
Everyone has to pay for advertising. I mean, if you want your business to grow,
Right.
you have to advertise.
Right.
Just the way you do. It's not the traditional way. You're not on, making TV commercials and
No, because
radio commercials.
No, what I do is today's version of a commercial.
Right.
TV commercials are kind of dead. Don't get me started on that. We could talk about business. By the way, super excited. Random tangent side note that I just discovered yesterday. I've been hoping and wishing for it to come along. LinkedIn finally has stories. Thank you, Jesus. LinkedIn gods, whoever. So glad they finally have stories, meaning I can get on there just like I do with IGTV stories and talk about business stuff.
Right.
On stories every day.
Right. So what is the difference? You probably need to, I don't know if people that listen to this know the difference between LinkedIn versus other social media.
Yeah, I would say that most people think that LinkedIn is where they put their resume and if they're looking for a job or something like that, but it really is a social media platform, business to business.
Right.
Social media platform. So for me, I could end up with someone who could mentor me, or saw the content that I produce and go, well, I'd love to have you produce pillows for my company, or I would love to have you.
Right.
It's a business to business type marketing situation.
So it's not a personal.
Not usually.
Okay.
Usually it's business to business. Of course, a lot of people are looking for employees there. They are looking
right.
for.
Yeah, they look. You can see people's resumes and that kind of thing on there too.
It's a very professional. Most people are not going to go in there with political anything.
Right.
It's all very PC, in my opinion, which is kind of how business still is these days. It's really interesting that among all the things that have kind of gone to hell in a handbasket as far as things we think are okay to talk about in this world and to hate people for and all this different stuff, when it comes to business type interactions, there's still a civility about it, which I kind of love.
Because you have to put that aside. I mean, when it comes to business, you have to put all that aside.
But why can't we put it aside with each other?
I don't know.
Because it doesn't, in the end, most of it doesn't matter.
Right.
Most of it isn't even factual anyway. Most of the stuff we hear and see I don't know why we can put it put it aside on LinkedIn. Why we know
I
that when
think
we go to
because
LinkedIn, that's our space to not be that way,
yeah,
but let your everything fly on all the other social
I
media
think
platforms.
LinkedIn is more of like a bigger picture kind of platform, whereas Facebook a lot more personal. It's like this is Facebook's about me, whereas LinkedIn's like
Sure,
the business.
sure.
I have to put on my company face.
I guess I'm of the mind, since I'm running a business, that I am my business no matter
Yeah,
where I go.
always.
It's like
Right.
whenever you work at McGill, and so you tell your students that
Mhm.
when they're in the McGill, even if they're not in their uniform, because you work at a private school, they wear uniforms. So even if you're not in your uniform, you are representing your school even when you're not at school.
Right.
And that's important. And I think that everyone I mean, I guess in the end, we're all forming our own personal brands, whether you like it or not. Just like people say you don't need a headshot, like everybody needs a headshot.
Right.
Everyone has a personal brand. Is It's fine if that's what you want your personal brand to be, but you better own it. And I mean, it's who
Yeah.
you are, and know that you're going to alienate some people, and you're going to have to be okay with that.
I don't think people pay attention to that at all.
You are a personal brand. No matter who you are a personal brand. And so all my friends on Facebook that are my personal friends on Facebook, I don't ever post anything that would
Yeah.
be remotely controversial that I wouldn't say on my business page too,
Right.
because I am my personal brand. No matter where I go, no matter what I do, and whatever I say or do reflects back on my business and my kids and you, and I mean everything. It's it's not always about me. Like, I have to think about, would that embarrass you when you
Right.
go to school on Monday morning? Is that going to embarrass you? Is that going to embarrass the people that you represent? I mean, I don't know. I just feel like the implications of what we say and do
Well,
spread
and you never know
beyond.
when you're going to run into someone that pays attention to you. We were at a soccer game yesterday, at one of our kids' soccer game, and this woman that came out of seemingly the woods.
She did come out of
Uh,
the woods. She actually came out of the woods. She did. She's like, I live right here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's like, "I'm one of your fans. I know you have no idea who I am, but I just want to tell
She was
you that."
super sweet.
Yeah. So you never know where you're going to run into someone that knows you, and if you're like you said, you can't be somebody over here on Facebook and then expect that everyone's not going to see you that way when they see you in
Yeah,
person
I'll have
or
people say sometimes to me, "You're just like you are on on the Instagram." Listen to me, I'm 75
on the
years old.
line.
On the line, you're just like you are on the line. I'm like, who else am I supposed to be? Like, anybody else that's faking it,
Yeah.
it just makes me nervous. Like, to think that, I
You're
don't
not the
know.
same person.
Like, I have a mustard stain on my shirt, whether and I'll show it to you on social media, and I'll also be at the soccer game with the same mustard stain. Like, when I show you what I wore and I'm about to leave the door out the door, when you see me at that game, you'll be able to look at your story and go, "Oh, yep, she's
Yep,
wearing
there
that
she
same
is.
outfit. She didn't change before she came out here." I mean, I don't know. I just don't have time for all that.
Yeah.
Honestly, which is why I need to hire someone to clean my house. I mean, it all comes back to that. Um it all comes back to just no identifying when you need some help. So we can help a little bit with how you can identify when you're that lobster that's hitting that boil point and just needing somebody.
Okay, so this is sort of switching gears, but not really. Is it possible that you ask for help too much? I mean, I'm sure it's possible, but
Is
that
it possible for people to ask for help too much? I think it's
yeah,
possible for people to take advantage of other people. Um I think we all know of businesses and employers and family members and stuff that are always the ones who are getting asked to help. And there are some of us who need more help than others and really can't handle all the things. On the flip side of that, I think a lot of times people don't offer me help because I do seem so capable, and you
yeah.
are so capable and so helpful. People
They
know.
just look like they got it together. They don't need
Yeah,
help. Don't
yeah.
even bother
And so they don't
asking.
get offered. And I think there's other people who don't look like they have it together, and so they do get offered more. I think it's one thing to get offered and accept help. It's a different thing maybe to constantly ask the same people over and over again. Um, I don't know. I don't know if there's a I don't know. That's probably a rough subject to get into, as far as if you can possibly ask someone too much.
Yeah,
But definitely closer and closer in your circle, it's better, at least family, to ask them the most. You might alienate some friends if you keep asking.
sure. Yeah,
Even the closest of friends can get tired. I mean, I had a friend in college. We were best friends, and I just couldn't handle the drama anymore. You know, it was just always something was wrong. And I talked to another friend of mine about it in college, and she was like, "Oh yeah, we call those emotional vampires." I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so accurate."
Yeah.
I mean, it was always just.
Always need your help with something.
It wasn't
Help me
even.
through something.
Yes, it was help me through something. It wasn't like I need you to come over and move me, you know, the
Right.
boxes
Right.
from my
Right.
house
Right.
or something. It was this emotional.
Right. I'm going through this thing.
She was
It's
always
not like what I
going
was
through
going through last
something.
week. Yeah.
Like, if you're someone who is always going through something, and I don't mean mental health issues, guys. I'm talking about if there's like some sort of acute drama in your life at all times, there is action that needs to be taken that's beyond probably just getting through it. You probably
Right.
need to, like, you know, leave him or her, or you need to remove yourself from a situation, or you
Right.
need to, like, there's some action that needs to
Get
be
a new
taken,
job or
whatever it
whatever it is.
is.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. If you are that miserable, there's some action that needs to be taken in order for things to change. But the people who surround you will eventually be exhausted by, at least me. This is the friend I am. Lack of action drives me nuts.
Right.
That's
Don't
just who I
complain,
am.
complain, and complain. And if you're not going to do anything about it,
Yeah,
like, I don't want to hear it.
you know this about me.
Yeah.
You've been the victim of this lots and lots of times.
Yes, I have.
Where you come home and you just need to let, the day
Right. A
off
lot of
your
times,
shoulders.
you just need to vent about something, but
But see, I have to know whether or not you're venting to start with, or if
Right.
you actually want me to help you solve a problem. And I've discovered that about myself over time. Because if you come to me and you don't identify it and you're just griping,
Right.
I think you need a solution to your problem. So I'm going to help you come up with a solution. But then when you're the person that comes to me 10 times and it's the same
Right.
problem
Same
over and over
problem.
again,
You've
and I'm
done
still trying to
nothing.
help you through it, and you're not taking any action to move forward,
Right.
I don't want to help you anymore. I'm done. I don't want to listen
you don't
to you
wanna hear
anymore.
about it
No,
either.
I do not want to hear about it. I don't want to listen to you. I don't want to have this conversation for the 75th time. Like, either go do something about it or stop talking about it.
Right.
Those are your two options when it comes to me. Sorry, everybody, but that's how it
Yeah.
how it is. Because I'm a person of action. Now, I've discovered about myself that if you come to me and you preface it with, "Look, I just need to vent about today. I don't want anything to happen,"
Yeah.
then I think
Just need
I'm not great at it, but I think I can handle it a
Right.
little better than when there's no preface to tell me that you don't need any help.
Yeah, I guess I don't field a lot of that. But I want to say that the past
What do you mean? No one comes to you for help? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, maybe the past few times that you've said something to me, I'm like trying to come up with solutions. You're like, I don't need solutions. Just
Yeah, I tell you. I just straight up tell
I'm
you.
just telling you this stuff.
Yeah,
Don't help me through this. Just listen.
just listen. Yeah.
Because I'm like the last couple. I'm trying to think of people that have actually come to me like, "Hey, help me through this." You might be the only person. I don't think other people.
I don't know. You
I
have
don't think I'm
students.
that kind of.
I don't know. I think you've got students.
I don't know.
You're a man of the use when it comes to advice.
But they don't like, "Hey, can I talk to you privately about this issue?"
Sure.
They're usually more real generic things that come up that probably all kids are dealing with, and so
Isn't that
sort
the
of
nice
like
thing?
a blanket thing.
When
It's
you
not like a
constantly,
personal.
like, you're getting older and wiser, and the people who you are surrounded by on a daily basis, for the most part, are all staying the same age
Yeah,
because they they all pass through. They're always 14 through 18.
and it's always the same issue.
It's always the same issue because
I
that's
know that when they hit freshman year, third quarter, they like really have this issue where they had believed their parents for so long, and now they actually have friends who are sometimes more right than their parents.
or just have a
And
different
there's
thought
like
process, right?
it's like, whoa, what's going on here? There's like this real weird balance of
Yeah.
power
Yeah.
between
They're having to
what
really
mom and
think
dad
about it.
say, what I'm allowed to do, what they're actually letting me get away with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I'm starting to get these freedoms, but I don't know what to do with them. It's really awkward. And it happens
See, there you
it's
go.
always third quarter of freshman year.
Yeah. So, do they come to you and ask you
No,
questions?
I tell them, like I know, like,
Oh.
hey guys, it's third quarter. Let me tell you what's happening in your life and you don't realize it, but like some of you probably are starting to realize
Do
this,
any of
but
them nod their heads in agreement, or
yeah, most of the time. Like it's like a lot of times when I give this information, they're kind of like, "Oh my god, the guy's peering into my soul."
yeah, you
It's
see
like
the little
your
light bulb in
soul
their
is
eyes?
no different than any other
Yeah.
15-year-old going through the same thing.
That's pretty amazing.
So, yeah, I don't think that kids come to me necessarily, but
Sure. Yeah, but you've seen it enough. Well, you must have seen. There must have been something that happened overall. I mean, you've been teaching for like 20 years at this point.
yeah, it's probably like one or two things every year. Either I have an issue with the teacher, with another student and their parent.
Mhm.
Like the parent comes to me,
Yeah.
little Johnny's acting up.
It's always
Oh,
little
that's
Johnny.
interesting. And then it happens every year around the same time. It's
You're
a different
storing it
kid.
away. You're so good at seeing pattern in things.
It's my math brain.
I'm not so much.
Gotta put it away in
I'm
there.
telling you,
You see 'em.
I would probably experience the same questions and the same kids for 15 years and be like, it's brand new
That
every
is
time.
unique. That is a unique problem.
Let me go find somebody who can help you with that.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I have the same questions in my business over and over and over again, but yet could not write a curriculum for it, which is what I'm working on right now in
With
a
your
very
business
slow
plan.
way.
Yeah.
Not just the business plan, but working on producing, ebooks and things like that, where you
Right.
have to get down to very
The
bare
details.
basics
Yeah.
of where you started and what people would like to learn. It's like, when do they want to learn
Well, and
again?
your
I
memory's so
forgot.
bad too. I don't know how you're gonna go back and do that.
Okay. See, but that's another thing with hiring people and helping you out, that for me anyway, it has allowed my brain to be a lot more clear because there's so much stuff rattling around up there. I mean, there's
Yeah.
always going to be stuff rattling around up there, but following up with clients, I mean, I used to know every one of my clients' names,
Yep.
where they lived, what their kids' names were, their dog's name, what they wanted in their landscape. Like, all that stuff was up there being stored in a file.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, yesterday morning, I woke up thinking about one of my clients who I had their project finished last August. What are we in? April now? Almost April?
Almost.
I don't even know how many months ago that was. They had a problem with their install. We got it all sorted out, talked to the contractor, all that stuff, but I haven't heard from her since. And we did a video at her house. Like, it was a whole thing. Like, we were very involved there.
Yeah.
I woke up yesterday morning thinking of her, and then I immediately forgot again. And then this morning I messaged her on Instagram and said, just wanted to check on you, see how you're doing. But like, the fact that that's what's rattling around up there in my
Yeah,
sleep.
I think you used to do that with all of your clients too. Like there was
But
some
now I have
sort
an
of
assistant who
follow-up.
does that.
Yeah.
Which is great. People really appreciate follow-up, even if it's not directly from me. And I think now we're getting into the point in my business where, to some degree, not everyone, not necessarily locals, but I do a lot of online consultation, virtual consultation type stuff. And when I'm the one that pops up on their Zoom call or their
Yeah.
FaceTime or whatever, they're shocked that it's me. Like, they think it's going to be somebody else. They think it's going to, like, my office is calling,
Right.
but that someone else
But
is
you
going
have
to take care
several
of
other
it.
designers.
Yeah, which
and-
we don't have yet. I think we're going to get there eventually.
Right.
But we're getting to the point where people don't always expect me to be the one that follows up, which is
Yeah.
great. Like, that's where I need to be. But just know, if you're my client, I'm still thinking about you. It doesn't matter, how old you are. If you're 10 years ago, probably I'm still thinking, especially if there's a problem. For sure I'm thinking about you if there's a
Yeah.
problem. But yeah, I will always, I think, message my clients from time to time when they pop into my head. But I do that with everybody. Anybody. It doesn't matter if you're a client or a personal friend. If I think of you, I'll just text you and just say, I'm thinking, hey, thought of you today. Not even like what I usually don't think anything in particular.
Right.
It'll
Just
usually
like their
be
name
like,
popped in their head.
yeah,
Like
or
in
it'll
your-
be like, oh, I wonder, the last time I talked to her, she was, going through something. I
Yeah.
wonder if that's all sorted out. And so I'll just message them. And what's interesting about that, I don't know if we've done a podcast about this before, or talked about it, but I've had several people say, you messaged me at just the right time. I actually was having a hard day,
Right.
whatever. And you think, clearly that thought popping in my head wasn't just a coincidence.
Right.
It was meant to be there.
Divine
And so
providence there.
it needs some action. So if that ever happens to y'all, try it. I love that little bit of advice. It's something, I don't know that anybody told me to do that. I just kind of did it. It's almost like getting a handwritten thank you note. I think
Yeah.
people really appreciate it. Gary Vee would tell you that handwritten notes are stupid, but I don't think they are. And I also think that just sending a text message to tell someone that you were just thinking of them is hugely
Right.
kind.
Yeah, it goes a long way.
Yeah. And not even in any kind of like, that they need to do something for you. It's
Right.
just, I think people cross my mind, and I think that they like to, anybody likes to know that,
Someone else is thinking about you.
yeah. And just wondering how you are. And
Right.
not in that, I saw you, hey, how you doing? And you don't really want to know how they're
Right.
doing.
Yeah.
In a true, like, I was thinking of you and I want to know how you're doing.
Yeah.
Because last time we talked,
Well, if you're taking the time out of your day to send a message, I really do want to know how you're doing.
yeah.
Like I stopped my day
Yeah.
to write this
I mean,
message.
how long does it take to send a text message? 10 seconds, maybe. It
Right.
probably takes me longer to find people in my phone than it does to write the text message.
Yeah.
Finding contacts in my phone is always a total nightmare if you even make it in there to start with. I've had people who will call me off and on for months and months and months. I never program them in. I'm so bad about programming numbers in my phone. Do you
I do it
immediately?
immediately. I
Ugh.
can't stand. There are certain
My
things
assistant does too.
that I
People will
can't.
just call her like the first time to
Yeah,
even look into pot. You get programmed
you're
in.
getting programmed.
Dude, I'm telling you, if I wasn't married to you, your number might not be in my phone. I mean, honestly, it's crazy how long it takes me. Um, so anyway, having help keeps my brain a little less cluttered, which allows me to have time for other things. And it's the kind of things that people tell you that that's what's going to happen. And you're kind of like, yeah, yeah, yeah. The salary I'm about to spend is a lot of money for me to just
Right.
take a chance to see if that's true. It's true, guys. It's
Yeah.
totally true.
Yep.
And now, whenever we find somebody to clean our house, it will free us up time to pressure wash the wall. It will give us time to
Work on the Cushman.
yeah, what was the other there was some other spring item that we wanted to do that I can't think of right now.
Other than pressure washing,
Yeah, there was something else. I
it's
can't think of
probably all
it.
the like you wanted to plant a bunch of stuff.
I mean, there's tons of stuff. I mean, the list that I had just for today, including what do you call it? Not filming this podcast, recording this podcast.
Yeah.
Um, it's just
It's a
a
long
mile.
list. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we were doing all the things that we were catching up to that. I mean, I was still raking leaves today, and
Yeah,
you
so I
know,
put that on my Instagram the other day. Is that I think it was a couple weeks ago. I had the kids go out and rake the yard because I want them to learn the skill, but just having them do things,
it's never.
it's not to the quality that it really need. Like it gets generally the job done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had them clean the house today. We had them clean the house today. But then we have to go behind them and sweep. You have to go behind them and mop. You have to go behind them and, if nothing else, check all of their work. There's just,
Yeah.
you
And
know.
that's what I'm hoping
So
hiring
finding
somebody.
good help is also a big
Yes,
another
because
factor in that.
I think we've talked about before, we have had several people try to clean the house
Right.
and it's not great. So we're going to work our way through it. But I think I'm determined this time to find someone to do it. And if I have to go through 5 different people to get it done, so be
The way
it.
that you want it done.
The way that I want it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, then so be it. But I think I also am changing my mental state of what I expect out of that person.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's not this like special. In the past, it was my birthday gift, like to
Yeah.
have the house cleaned top to bottom and like deep cleaned,
Right.
which they ain't no satisfying me on that. Unless you're Go Clean Co., there's no satisfying me on that. And so instead, let me switch my brain to someone who is helping aid me in what I'm already trying to do and relieving me from my typical deep cleaning is not my
Right.
typical weekly thing, right? Like
Right.
we try to deep clean a couple rooms per week or something like that. And so now I'm looking at it as someone who is going to help aid me in my normal and alleviate some of
Right.
the
So you
pressure
can
and
actually get
stress.
to, the really tough things that.
Yeah. So I can get to putting a top on that new console table we just
Right.
built, or I can get to cleaning the foyer floors that have epoxy stuck to them. Like those are just
Yeah, I don't know if that's coming out.
see, I'm telling. I think it is. You think we're gonna have to retile it?
Yeah,
Do you
I
want to
really do.
retile it?
I asked you that. I really don't care. At the end of the day, I don't care. But I remember when I was pulling up everything else before we did the epoxy.
I like the tile in there. I was gonna dye the grout black and just clean up the things, but to clean up the tiles with the epoxy. Y'all weren't as
Yeah.
neat with the epoxy. Although I think partly it was me because I had spread some paint on it by accident. I'd spilled
It was that
paint.
and having to redo the epoxy is what really did us in, because then
Yeah.
everything was out for what we thought was only going to be a week or so. It was out for several weeks.
I was just thinking in the grand scheme of the projects that we have going on right now, the foyer floor ain't my.
No, it's not.
I mean,
It's
geez
way down the
Louise.
list.
So this week's episode was pretty business heavy. So I apologize for that if you guys aren't into the business end of things. But overall, I think that if you are struggling with hiring someone, not because you don't have the money, but because you can't let go that you wouldn't be doing something, like how would I let someone else do this? I think that you really have to stop and be logical and pragmatic about the reasons why, you
Right.
know, and your goals, what your goals are in life or with your home or whatever it is, and how do I reach these goals. I mean, I'm already such a logical, decision maker, but
Mhm.
for whatever reason, this kind of stuff has really escaped me. So if you're like me and you've let the emotions get in the way of being able to decide to let someone else do some things.
Yeah. I think another part of that too, just this just comes from the social media stuff that I follow, um, is that one of the things I follow, they this whole past week or two, they've been talking about detaching, being able to detach. Like you're
Oh, it's
always in it.
everything.
You're always in everything.
It's so hard. It's
Just take some time,
another
especially like when you really feel overwhelmed. Instead of like, I'm gonna double down right here and put in extra time and stay up late and wake up early.
mhm.
Just take a minute to detach and like step back and look at, okay, I'm wasting a lot of energy and time doing this. If I could just hand it off to somebody and come back to it,
That is
then
another way to say that is not being able to see the forest for the trees.
right.
Um, and I think in my experience, it takes someone who has already gotten past it that has a similar circumstance to you
Mm-hmm.
that can advise you. So
Right.
so maybe that's your first step to asking for help.
Sure.
Maybe not going and saying, going through the process and being able to say, I need somebody to clean my house. I need someone to do my books, my taxes, or whatever it is. Um, Maybe the first step is reaching out to a friend or a family member who has a similar circumstance as you do, but doesn't do it the same way,
Right.
that can maybe see it from the other side to help you
Yeah.
see the
Just give you
forest
a
for the
different
trees.
perspective, if nothing else.
Yes, because sometimes it's easy for someone else to give us advice who isn't in our same circumstance, and it's always easy for me to discount someone's advice
Yes.
that is not in the same position as
Right.
me. Well, you don't have 4 kids. What do
Right.
you know?
You don't own your own
You don't
business.
own your own business. Why is that helpful? And
Right.
so no one's going to have exactly the same circumstances as
Sure.
you. It's easy for me to also say, well, we've got 4 kids, but I'm not, we're not killing it money wise. So I don't have a fortune to go and hire XYZ.
Right.
And so the money thing always comes into play. Um, but of course, as people always tell you, you have to think about what things are worth to you. Is it worth $50 or $100 to save you, X number of hours
Yeah.
during your weekend?
Possibly
Or
several hours of your weekend.
we spend our entire weekends working on the house, which to some extent we like. We like
Yeah. There's some
making
satisfaction
there
in
is
getting
in
the
doing
work
it
done.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, but you can't do everything yourself to a high enough quality. You just can't. You cannot do it all.
Yeah.
Um so
Identify what the things are that you can let
mhm.
go or would
And
be willing to let go.
in business, the way that we do it is you identify the things that you like to do the least.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things you need to let go first. For me in my business, it was accounting. I had to let the accounting go. It took me 1,000 times longer to do my bookkeeping than it would take a CPA to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I hated doing it. It took me a long time and I hated it.
I feel
I
like the
had to let
first
it
few times
go.
you did it too, you couldn't get it to balance because of certain.
It was a program issue. It was a me
Yeah.
issue. It was bad. It would have taken me 6 months to have learned all the QuickBooks stuff, and he
Mm-hmm.
already knows it, and he's charging me like $100 a month. Is it really worth $100 a month
Right.
for me to do it?
Spend hours
Yeah,
trying
I
to
mean,
figure it
a
out.
day. I would spend a day per month, 8 hours a month, when it literally probably takes them 30 minutes to
Right.
do. It's not worth it to me. And so I think um, a friend of mine that when I was going through all this, he always said, make a list. And you can do this if it's a business, if it's your home, whatever it is that you're deciding that you need to hire out, make a list of all the tasks that you have to do
Mm-hmm.
in a day from top to bottom. And then decide the ones, rate them from 1 to 5. 1 is the ones you like to do the most, and 5 is the ones that you like to do the least, or vice versa, however you want to do it. Rate them all. And then when you get to the ones that you like the least, those are the things that you start hiring out. Pick one
Yeah.
to start, and then you hire that out.
Yeah.
If you want to be super pragmatic about it and super logical and no emotion, that's a good way to do
Yeah.
it.
It's numbers now.
It's
You're
numbers
looking at
now.
numbers.
Yeah, you're looking at tasks, and then you say, I like it or I don't like it, which I think everybody can do. And then from there, you say, now, these are all 1s and these are all 5s. So I will
Right.
keep these and I will toss these, and we will work at least one by one. Try one. Just try one thing to hire out and see if it works for you.
Yeah.
And then if that works, then you can move on to your next thing. And of course, all this stuff changes. right? Like,
Sure.
you can reevaluate every 6 months or a year or whatever you wanna do. You should always be reevaluating what you're doing, how you're doing it. Like, this should never be a static
Right.
process. This should always be moving and evolving with you and your family and how you live and all that stuff and your business and all these things. So, if there's any takeaway, I think that that's the best way to do it in a logical way that you can really like sit down and hone in on what your goals are
Yeah. And where you need help.
and where you need help. So that is what we have this week for you guys. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to send us an email at buildingaaronsburg@gmail.com, or you guys can see us on Instagram. Thomas's Instagram, you guys, it's on fire. It's at Building Aaronsburg on Instagram, and on Facebook, it's at Building Aaronsburg. Be sure to give us 5 stars on whatever listening channel you're on right now. And
On a
we'll,
side note,
yeah,
someone messaged me, and on Spotify, you cannot rate podcast.
podcasts
So,
are a whole
yeah.
crazy thing.
Anyway,
Wherever,
if
if
you're
you can,
listening on Spotify, you may not be able to rate us
but if you're
5
on
stars.
iTunes, you can for sure.
You're right.
Yeah, we'd appreciate it. Until next time, bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.